Hello, it's Marooner's Rock, where to geek out would be an awfully big adventure. I'm Ahmed, and with me is Buckland, who is a voice actress, and she's here at Fanime 2014. Hello, Kira.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. So, I guess, number one question, because for voice acting at least, that people have to ask is, how did you get into it?
Well, I've been voice acting since I was 16. I started out as a hobby because I lived in Alaska, so kind of just had to do it on the internet and things like that. And I was into anime and video games, and then I found out people can do like voice acting stuff online, so I started doing that. And then I eventually moved out here to California, and that's how I started getting anime and game roles officially.
And from what I understand, that you want, I believe, I might be wrong, and I'm very, very sorry. I apologize to you and to your fans if I'm off on this. But I believe you were at Anime Expo at one point and won the contest there? Or?
Yeah, 2007.
And, okay, what made you really, really interested in voice acting?
I guess just like playing games, watching anime, realizing that I wanted to do that kind of stuff too. I always liked doing things with my voice. Like I used to want to be a singer and stuff like that, and I kind of liked acting, but I didn't really know. And then it's like I found out about voice acting, and that was just kind of like my thing, I realized. So, I don't know, I worked really hard, practiced a lot, took classes. I mean, it's not, it's something that a lot of people say, like, I want to be a voice actor, but if it's something that you really want to do, you have to work really hard at it.
Golden rule of life, kids. Anything worth doing is worth working hard for. And, okay, just because I'm going through the list of various questions for voice actors anyway, what would you say was your significant starting role?
Probably Izumo from Blue Exorcist, because that's, I guess you could say, probably the biggest thing that I've been in. I mean, it's on Toonami and stuff like that, so that was really neat when that happened. And then the other role that I guess people kind of recognize me from when I tell them is Marie, the final boss from Skullgirls.
Okay, and as for, voice acting just in general, just because I have to ask, do you actually watch the anime or the original voice acting if it's in another language before you start recording, just to infer not infer, but to, guide your performance, or do you try to go into it blind, just go off the script?
Sometimes we get to. It really just depends. Sometimes they have us come in and record for something, and we have no idea what it is. So obviously in that case, we can't really research it, and we just kind of depend on the director to tell us. But I mean, lately for a lot of the shows that I've worked on, like, for example, Excel World and I think some of Blue Exorcist too, I actually, because I knew about it like a week or two in advance that I was cast as that character, I could go and watch it and really get a feel for my character and things like that, which I think is really helpful. But even so, even if you don't get that opportunity, when we record the lines, we get to see and hear it in Japanese first, each line, so we kind of see where the original performance is.
See how that guides the way the character is, so to
speak?
So, just because I've been recently finding out more and more about voice acting and things, do you ever do things such as, when you record a voice, do you go solo, just you, the mic, and the people behind the booth? Or do you ever get a chance to do it with other people, like, have someone to bounce off of?
We almost never get to record with other actors, especially for things like anime and video games. I know for certain things like prelay animation, they will record multiple actors together, but for like dubbing something from another language, we always record individually.
Okay, what is the strangest line you have ever had to give? The line where you just stop and go, what?
I've had a lot of really weird ones. I can't remember any off the top of my head exactly, but I don't know. I know that I've had that, or like I have lines that are hard to say, and so I have to do a lot of takes of it because it's like it looks easy to say on the paper, and then you try to actually say it, and it's like that's impossible.
Okay, and just because, again, for voice acting, there's always that question, do you ever get much in the way of, just some input on how the lines should go or what lines should be in it? Like,
as far as like altering the script, no, that's pretty much like, because especially if we're taking something like that's already been done in Japan or this and that, it has to go through a lot of different stages of approval. So for the I mean, sometimes if we improvise and do something silly, the director will be like, oh, I'll keep that as an outtake in case they let us ever do an outtake reel or something like that. For the most part, we just go with the script as written. Sometimes they'll change up a few words here and there just to make it fit with the mouths. Like we record it and we realize, okay, the sync isn't working, so let's take out a word or add a word. Just like simple things like that, but usually the director is the one who makes those calls.
So just from your many roles, which one is the role that was easiest for you to wrap your head around to get into that character, and which one was the hardest one for you to wrap your head around?
The easiest one was probably a character that I just finished playing recently for an upcoming show called Blood Lad. I'm playing the character of Hydra Bell, and I just felt like I got into her character so easily. It came like really naturally to me, and I'm super proud of that performance, and I can't wait to see it. A role that was a little more difficult but really fun because it was a challenge was Kuriyuki Hime from Excel World, because she's the opposite personality type of the characters that I normally play. Like I normally play characters who are kind of like maybe like mean or bratty or like energetic at least, and Kuriyuki Hime is very like reserved and proper, and so I had to internalize a lot of her emotions more, and that was an interesting challenge.
And I guess the other question is, which is easier to do? Is it doing voice acting for animation or doing voice acting for games? Because
I'd say voice acting for games, because I mean, occasionally you have to worry about sync in video games, but generally not. Like, especially if it's like a lot of like JRPGs and stuff, they'll just have a picture of the character and then the line they say, so we don't have to worry about the timing. But for anime, it's already animated to the Japanese voices, so you have to, you know, no matter how much you want to deliver a line a certain way or this or that, it still has to fit within the timing no matter what, which often has to be like your first concern. But video games, if there's no timing restriction, which there usually isn't, then you get to play around with your pacing, your delivery a little bit more.
I'm trying to just think of any other questions that would work for your role as a voice actor. And I guess, what would be the one role or the one thing you would love to have a chance at doing, voice acting wise?
I'd love to do something from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's like if it ever got localized or whatever, for some reason it got an English version, I'd be like, oh, let me be Jolene. She's not in the anime yet, she's only in the manga, but
A person can dream.
Yeah.
Any words of advice for any aspiring voice actresses or voice actors out there?
I always tell people the same thing if they ask for advice. It's learn to act. It sounds really basic, but a lot of people think that voice acting is about doing silly voices or sounding like an existing character. And I mean, vocal range is important, but the biggest thing that sells your ability as an actor is how well you can make your character believable. So, you know, you can learn to change your voice fairly easily, but it's definitely getting into character, learning to act, learning to make a convincing performance. That's what's going to win you the audition.
And I guess any other question I should have would be about any interesting roles that you can talk about coming up in the future. I mean, you mentioned that you're playing in Blood Lad.
And then there's an upcoming game that I'm really excited about called Danganronpa 2. It's the sequel to the first one, and I'm playing Hiyoko Sayonji. I'm a huge fan of Danganronpa, so I'm really excited about that coming out.
So remember, kids, next time you have nightmares due to Danganronpa, you might be hearing her voice in your dreams. And I'm terrified now. Okay, how are you enjoying the convention circuit so far?
I just got here, so I haven't had a chance to look around or do anything.
I also mean just the general, travel for conventions and whatnot.
Oh, this is one of my first ones, so...
Sorry, did not mean to put you on the spot there.
Oh, that's fine.
So, who are some of your favorite people to have worked with in the industry?
A lot of people. I pretty much enjoy most of the people I work with. Even if, for example, a director is kind of tough, then I learn a lot from that experience. Or if they're fun and laid back, then, we just like have a really good time and joke around. So, I mean, I've generally just had really positive experiences.
That's good. And it's always good to have good positive experiences at work. You started off at Anime Expo Idol, like you won the contest there.
Yeah.
And I guess, again, like what was that experience like for you?
Crazy. Like I was really, really hoping I'd win. I mean, I'd been practicing. I had trained with an acting coach before I did that, and I really, really prepared because I knew that would be like possibly an opportunity to get my foot in the door. And so, the problem is there's so many talented people who tried out. So I was like, oh man, I really hope that they at least kind of like notice me or this and that, even if I don't win. And then I got a finalist, and I was like, yes. And then because I thought somebody else was gonna win, and then I ended up winning. But she and I are starring in Blood Lad together, so it's kind of neat.
That's cool. Okay, what were your favorite anime growing up as a kid?
I think the first anime I ever got into was Sailor Moon, as is the case for a lot of people. I went through a phase where I was really into Inuyasha, and then Fooly Cooly was my favorite anime for a while. Right now, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is my favorite anime, obviously.
Because if anything, it lives up to its name.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
The thing is, again, it's usually interesting when a fan manages to make the transition to the world of their fandom, so to speak, and it's a very different experience from people who started off like in some professional thing and then ended up becoming part of the fandom, part of the object of fandom, and other people being of the fandom and then advancing to the level of being the thing the fandom is of. Has that made an impact on you?
For the most part, because I'm not really popular, well known yet, like most people just like still consider me a fan, I guess. But I think it helps, like understanding the medium that I do. I think that's really helpful. Like for example, I am a gamer, so if I'm recording for a certain video game or something, I can kind of see like, okay, I know what's going on here. It's like, or joining this party or picking up an item or something. It's like I know what kind of context that voice should be in, I guess. So it helps me out. It makes the director's job a little bit easier because they're not having to try to explain so much what's going on in the game. So yeah, I think it's just helpful understanding the media that you work in and appreciating it.
And well, again, I've like gone through like all my usual voice acting questions. I'm trying. Exactly, what are you looking forward to in your career doing? Like, beyond, are you hoping to move beyond just doing voiceover work for completed things and moving on to original pieces where you're the initial voice for the character from the start?
Oh yeah, I think that would be really neat. I mean, every voice actor wants to work as much as they can. It's just kind of, it's about what kind of opportunities you get and things like that. And I hope that will keep expanding for me.
And hopefully it will. And I think we are out of time right now. So remember, keep checking Marooner's Rock for more on Fanime 2014. Keep looking for Kira Buckland and more of your upcoming games and anime. And remember, here on Marooner's Rock, we're here to geek out because it's an awfully big adventure. Have a good day.